Hello and welcome to everyone listening to the Written in Melanin podcast, the space where you come to get your weekly dose of melanated creativity. Wherever this day may have found you, I'm so glad that you are here. I'm your host, C.M. Lockhart, an author of fantasy books featuring Black girls who aren't all that nice, and the owner of the Melanin Library, your place to find books of all genres written by Black authors. And this is episode number 10 of the Written in Melanin podcast, you guys. So in the last episode of the podcast, I talked about marketing yourself as an indie author while being introverted. And in this episode, I'm going to be sharing the things that I've learned about how to make Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram work for me. As always, I offer my advice with a grain of salt, and I remind you guys that this is my unique experience with the platforms, but I'm here to share what I know, and if it can help you at all or ease the stress of navigating the platforms, then that's what matters. So that being said, this is just a quick reminder that if you enjoy listening to the podcast, please head over to my website, writteninmelanin.com, and leave something positive so I know I'm not just shouting into the void. That being said, let's get into this. And the platform that I kind of want to start off today with talking about is Twitter. And the reason I think Twitter is the easiest one to start with is because as an author, as long as you can put together a sentence, you can navigate Twitter because it is so fast moving. Even if you don't have images, if you don't have links, none of that really matters with Twitter as long as you can engage with the community and you can do words. So it's the easiest one to get into in my personal opinion. That being said, here's some of my quick and dirty tips for navigating Twitter. The first is tweet often, be yourself, don't think too much about it. Just get in there, say something, and get out. Don't stress about it, don't think too much about it, don't overanalyze. Just tweet, be yourself, and move on. The more authentic you are, the more Twitter is going to reward that, and you're going to find people who vibe with you. And that's the key with Twitter, is to find people you vibe with. The second thing, before you post an opinion, consider your response if someone disagrees with you before you post. And I say this all the time, I will continue to say this. Every opinion is not for the internet. So if you're not ready to defend it, don't post it. If you don't want that kind of smoke, don't post it. If you don't want to deal with it, especially if you know people are going to disagree with you, don't post it. If you're not going to be willing to admit that you're wrong or apologize or hear other people's perspective on it and change yours, don't post it. Every opinion is not for the internet. So if you're not ready to deal with it, just leave it in the drafts, okay? Third tip, ignore the trolls. Do not engage, do not feed them. There are always going to be people in your comments, especially as your platform grows, who are just trying to antagonize you, who just want the clicks, who just want to get under your skin, who just want to ruin your day. Do not feed them, do not engage, do not do anything because they will feed off of that and it will only get worse. So if you can, obviously there are moments when you do need to respond to something, but there's a difference between someone who has a dissenting opinion who you should have a conversation with and someone who's trolling you. You have to learn the difference, and the usual difference is that a troll is going to have a crap username and their whole profile feed is just going to be them going to other people's comments and doing things that antagonize them. So realize who you're dealing with before you engage. Just fair warning. Next tip, curate your feed. And by that, I mean unfollow people, block people, and do what you need to do to make sure that when you log into any social media platform, that platform is what you need it to be for it to be halfway entertaining and engaging. So if you're an author and you want to follow other authors, then make sure that's what you're doing. Don't just follow any other random person who is like, ooh, they followed me, so I should follow them back. If you don't like their content, then don't follow them back. Because what that does is it creates a feed where you don't want to be a part of it. You're bored, you're not interested, and you're not seeing things that you want to react to. And if you're not commenting, retweeting, quote tweeting, interacting with people, then the platform is not going to work for you. So this goes back to a previous podcast episode where I talked to you guys about not all energy is reciprocal. There are going to be people who follow you who you just don't want to see on your timeline. That's perfectly fine. Don't feel obligated to follow them back, because I promise you the opposite is going to happen. You're going to follow some people and they are not going to follow you back. And that is perfectly fine. The purpose of doing this is to curate your feed. You want to see their tweets. You want to interact with them. So make sure you do that. And if someone is bothering you, block them. If you like someone, but you're just not in the right mental space to deal with them, then mute them. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no punishment for doing that. No one's going to come hunt you down and be like, you muted me on social media. How dare you do that? Make yourself happy, okay? Curate your feed. Do what you need to do. All right? Next tip, engage. So comment things, like things, retweet things, quote tweet things, have an opinion, a gentle one. I know what I said earlier, but still be interesting, engage with people, let them know who you are. This is not a marketing ploy, and I will say this all the time until the end of time. Social media is about connecting with people. It is not about marketing your book. If you market your book to people while you're there, that's one thing, but you should never join a platform for the pure purpose of just marketing yourself, because no one's going to follow you. No one's going to care. No one's going to find you interesting. You're going to be shouting into a void, and you might sell a couple of books that way. But what you're looking for, at least for me as an author, I could only speak for myself and my experience, right? But I know for me, when I'm advertising my stuff, I'm trying to create a community of people who enjoy my works. So I want people who not only buy the first book in my series, but the second book in my series, who will be invested in the next book that I write. I don't want to just sell one book that may sit on the shelf that someone may or may not read, may or may not review, because shouting into the void, that's likely to happen. So keep that in mind and understand that the next tip is, if you market your book every day, you will be muted or unfollowed, because like I said, a lot of people are going to curate their feed, and if all they see are ads and purchase my book, buy my book, they're going to unfollow you, or they might mute you, and you don't get notified when you get muted. Basically, that's just someone saying that, hey, I don't want to unfollow you, but I also don't want to see your content. So that does not work in your favor. And so the best way to avoid that is to be interesting, talk about other things, and do things other than market yourself. Marketing yourself is important. You should definitely do it, but do it in moderation, okay? Consider marketing yourself on social media like drinking alcohol, okay? You don't want to be an alcoholic. You don't want to market yourself to become annoying to other people. Okay, that's how I see it, in moderation. And everybody has their own definition of moderation. So I'm just going to assume that you're a fully functioning adult or close to it, and take that with a grain of salt that you need it to make an informed decision. But moving on, this one is very Twitter specific. Don't use hashtags unless it's for something specific. So if you're using like hashtag writing community or a hashtag book community, that's one thing. But Twitter is not big on hashtags. So if you have a bunch in your tweets, a lot of people are just going to ignore that because it looks like an ad, it looks like a promotion, unless you're using a very specific one. I know for myself, I use hashtag Melanin chat on Tuesdays because there are people who follow that hashtag to know when we go live and when we stream. So keep that in mind. Unless you're making a specific hashtag for a specific purpose, don't use them. Twitter is not the place for that. So, but those are kind of like my tips and tricks for Twitter. So I'm going to move on to TikTok. And again, this is going to be really quick and dirty. I'm just going to give you what I know, and you can take it with a grain of salt. So TikTok is another platform that rewards authenticity. So you need to be interesting. You need to be personable. You need to be showing people who you are. And like I said, this is not an advertisement space. This is not a billboard. This is not an ad on Hulu. Okay. You are not here to sell people things. You are here to introduce yourself, to interact with people, to find a community, and to be a part of a community. And that will lead to you selling books. Okay. So with TikTok specifically, be authentic. And like I said, be yourself. That's the thing. Whoever you are, however you want to present that. TikTok is a video platform, so a video is going to be involved. I will say this, TikTok rewards you being in front of the camera. So if you are one of those people where you don't like to be seen, you don't like to be perceived, then I would suggest coming up with a creative way to make your voice there or whatever. But I know that TikTok's algorithm really does not push videos that are pre-recorded off of the app, and you cannot do a screen recording within the app. So keep that in mind, which is my next tip, honestly. TikTok rewards you recording in the app. So they want you to use their filters. They want you to use the sounds. They want you to record in the app and post from there. So keep that in mind. You don't have to. Not everybody does. I know a lot of people record outside of the app, but it does push its own videos. So keep that in mind. Yes, you're going to get a watermark. And if you're trying to do cross-platform pollination, like you want to do a TikTok and then take it over to Instagram to put it on Reels, you're going to want to record outside of TikTok because TikTok is going to put a watermark on your video once you download it. However, I would suggest personally picking which platform you want to do, because I know for me personally, I prefer to do a TikTok. I can do a TikTok in like 5 minutes. It takes me at least an hour to do a reel. I don't know why. Instagram is just not intuitive the way that TikTok is. I prefer TikTok naturally, but it's just one of those things to keep in mind if you're trying to do cross-pollination. It's not as easy as it looks. It definitely can be done, but keep that in mind when you're trying to pick which platform you want to do, which platform you want to get into, because it's not as simple as being like, I'll just download my TikToks and upload them to Instagram. So keep that in mind. When it comes to TikTok, tip number, whatever number we're on, I honestly don't know at this point, but shorter content is better if you want the algorithm to push it. So there is 3 options currently for TikTok. You can make a 15-second video, you can make a 60-second video, or you can make a 3-minute video. And the shorter your video is, the more people are going to view it. And basically the reason why this works, and take this with a grain of salt, I am not a social media marketer. This is just articles that I've read and what I know, right? But basically the way it works is TikTok's algorithm works off of views. So the shorter your content, the more likely that someone's going to watch it all the way to the end. If more people watch it all the way to the end, the more the algorithm is like, oh, people are watching this, I should show it to more people. The longer your video is, the less likely that people are going to watch it to the percentage that needs to be met in order for the algorithm to push it. So shorter content generally does better. But keep in mind that a lot of people sometimes want longer content. The reason I say this is because, as I've mentioned before, I have 2 platforms. I have one for my personal and I have one for the Melanin library. The one for the Melanin library, I almost always do longer videos because I'm actually giving content. I'm talking about books that I'm reading, I'm giving a review, I'm giving suggestions and recommendations. So understand what kind of content you're making and make the best judgment for you. But if you don't know where to start and you're nervous about it and you're introverted, I would recommend doing a 30-second video where you're just introducing yourself and being like, say hi, or I'm looking for a community, or just being authentic with people and letting them see who you are and getting adjusted to you and seeing if your content is something that they want to be a part of. So keep that in mind. Next tip, the community on TikTok is truly everything. So my personal advice, and I tell everybody this when they ask, how I grew my platform, mind you, I don't have a mega huge platform on TikTok, but I do think it's strong. Okay. And one of the ways that I do that is by introducing myself every time. So if you don't follow me on TikTok, all of my videos start essentially the same and they sound like this. Hey you guys, what's up? If you've never seen me before, my name is Chelsea and I write books about Black girls that aren't all that nice. This is my book. And then I go into whatever it is that I'm going to talk about on that TikTok. Usually my videos, I try to keep under 60 seconds because like I said, shorter videos, people engage more. But also the shorter the video is, it forces you, at least for me, I can't speak for anybody else, right? But it forces me to think, okay, get to the point, right? It's like when you're editing and you're like, you only have 300 words. Okay, normally you would say this in 500. How do you get it down to 300? And then when you get it down to 300, how do I get this down to 150? Okay, the shorter it is, get to the point. That way, more people have time to interact, more people have time to leave comments, to share, so on and so forth. Okay, but I always do that. And when I say this is my book, I literally put a cover up of my book and it takes like 5 seconds. People know who I am, my name, what I do. And I've advertised my book without being like pushy about it. Like, this is just what my cover looks like. If it looks interesting to you, great. And I've done all of that in 5 seconds in the first 5 seconds of the video. So even if they keep scrolling, guess what? I still got my little plug-in and it works for me. I suggest you try it. Also, since community is everything, I would suggest asking questions, get people to interact with you. And when you do, respond to your comments. And yes, I mean all of them. Every time someone responds to you, have a conversation with them. That's how you're going to grow your platform. That's how you're going to get people to like you. And understand that the advice that I'm giving is based off of my goals for my personal TikTok. And for me, I am not concerned about the numbers. I am concerned about the ratio. I'm concerned if 300 people are watching my video, if 100 people like it, 1 out of 3 people see my video, they are engaging with it. That's good for me. If I'm asking a question, if 500 people see the video and I've got, at least 100 people commenting, guess what? That's good for me. That's people engaging with my content. And those are the same people who are going to click on my profile, who are going to click on the link in my bio, who are more likely to click on the link in my book. And I know this for a fact because when I needed people for beta readers and when I set out the pre-order for my book, a lot of them came from people on TikTok. So just saying, the community is everything, and I would not suggest getting caught up in the numbers. So that's just my little 2 cents. Spend it how you like. On to the next tip, and that is to reach out to people and follow the kinds of videos you like. So if you see someone creating content that you like, follow them, interact with them, talk to them. I wouldn't necessarily copy them, because the thing is, like I said before, TikTok rewards authenticity. So be original, be yourself. But if you know that you like question videos, or you like skits, or you like people who do the sounds or whatever it is that you like, follow them, engage with it, and put your own little spin on it, put your own little twist on it. It's just like being an author. Yes, Beauty and the Beast has been done 100,000 times, but if you've got your own take on it, you've got your own spin on it, do it, But also, the key here is to be original, be yourself, understand that you are the only person who can be you. And when you enter onto the platform, that is what you're trying to sell. You're trying to say that, hi, I'm unique and I'm worth interacting with, and the things that I create are worth it. You're not trying to say, hi, this one book is worth it, because here's the thing. If you sell that one book, what happens with your next one? If you're nothing but that one book, what happens with the rest of your career? You are a person. So I would say put that first, right? Put the author first and then the books. Be a person first and then what you do. Okay. That's my advice. But like I said, take that as you want. TikTok and with Twitter and with Instagram, all of this kind of falls into the same one. But specifically for TikTok, post as consistently as you can. And I talked about this in the last podcast about being consistent and the pros and cons of it and so on and so forth. So if you want me to go in more depth, just go back and listen to that episode. But on TikTok, they want you to post at least once a day. And if you do that, you will get around 5 to 10 followers regularly. And that's literally doing nothing but posting once a day, a 30-second video, a 5-second video, whatever it is that you need to do. And if you want to grow faster than that, TikTok recommends posting 2 to 3 times a day if you want growth. And by growth, I mean, if you want like literally bunches and bundles of people following you all the time, then yeah, you need to post 2 to 3 times a day if that's what you're up for, if that's what you want to do. Me personally, I post like once a day. I sometimes post like maybe 3 to 5 times a week, depending on how I feel. I can tell you so far this week, I've posted absolutely nothing because I haven't been in the headspace to do it. And I've still had people interacting with me. And that's purely for me commenting on their stuff. That's purely for me reposting some of their stuff, sharing their stuff, and just engaging with the community. Because as I said, TikTok is a community and the community is everything. So keep that in mind. And the last platform that I want to talk to you guys about is Instagram. And y'all know I hate Instagram, so keep that in mind. So, quick and dirty tips for Instagram. Schedule your posts ahead of time, especially if you're like me and you hate the platform. You can use Planoly, plan with 2 N's or later. I've used all those apps, but all of them have a free version that you can use, and they're pretty good. And basically that just lets you plan out your post, schedule it, put your captions, tag people, whatever you need to do, and forget about it. So if you guys ever see me posting on the Melanin Library, please know that I am not on Instagram and I am not paying attention to it. I'm sorry, I don't like Instagram. It stresses me out. It makes me unhappy, and I'm not in the place in my life to put up with that kind of nonsense anymore. So keep that in mind. Instagram doesn't really follow the rules of TikTok and Twitter, which is probably why I don't like it. And that is captions and hashtags are everything. So with TikTok, your caption can only be 150 characters. That's including your hashtags, okay? Twitter is like 250 characters, including your hashtags. Instagram gives you 2,000 characters, 30 hashtags, and 20 tags, and you kind of need to use them all. Because the more hashtags you have, the more people are going to see your content. The more people see your content, the higher your engagement, yada, yada, yada. But keep in mind that that's only for Instagram, where you need to use the hashtags and have long captions. So that being said, as far as the captions, I would also recommend putting like a 1-sentence tagline at the top and then adding the important stuff at the bottom, because you don't want a caption that's cut off. But if you've used Instagram, you know this, they'll cut off after a certain word count, and then people have to click the read more for the rest of your caption. So my suggestion is always to put something catchy at the top and then put the rest of your information in the caption below, and then put your hashtags at the bottom. Some people put their hashtags in the first comment, but it really just depends on what you want to do. I haven't seen any difference, but I honestly don't know. I don't spend a lot of time researching Instagram at this point in my life. Instagram aesthetics are everything, and branding is important. So remember that you're branding yourself as an author and you're not branding a book, because what you don't want is to build up this entire platform around one book, and then you come out with a second one that looks completely different, has a completely different aesthetic, and you have no idea what to do with your platform. Your branding is all off. People aren't going to interact with your posts as much, and it's a very negative spiral. So brand yourself as an author, and remember that the way that your feed looks is everything. So one of the things that I can tell you is not popular anymore, that had a phase back in 2019, whatever, is those photos where people would get it and then you would break it up into like 3 grids or like 9. And so when people went to your actual page, then you have like this one really big photo that's broken up over like 9 squares. Yeah, no, that's not going to work, because people now the algorithm, the way it works, most people aren't going to see your page unless they're really interested. Also, when you post things, unless you're posting 3 things at a time, it's going to look wonky on your grid. And also keep in mind that people are going to see these posts individually in their feed. So if they just see one really blown up square of a purple square, they're not going to be interested. They're gonna be like, well, what the world? And they're going to keep scrolling. And that also means you have to come up with 9 different captions, and no one's going to go through and read 9 different captions for the same image. So doesn't really work. Would not recommend. Keep that in mind. Next tip, avoid marketing your book with the same type of posts, because people will become desensitized. So what I mean by that is, do not take the same post and just change the text. I am personally guilty of this. However, it's not the best way to go about marketing your book. Okay, people will look at it and be like, oh, it's just so-and-so promoting their book. Oh, it's just whatever. And they'll keep scrolling. They won't even double tap after a certain point, because they'll think they have seen it already. And it's like, oh, why is Instagram showing me this again? And the more people skip over it, the algorithm suppresses your content, so on and so forth. We know how this works. So avoid marketing your book with the same type of post. Be creative, switch it up, even if it's very minimal, so it's within the same brand and you don't have to do a whole lot of work, but it does need to look different. Next tip, be interesting and engage. This is the same on all the platforms. So marketing is important, but only marketing will get you muted or unfollowed. We've been over this. I'm not going to repeat it again, but yeah, be interesting, you guys. Next tip, pick a lane and stay in it. So if you're an author and you're offering editing services and that's what you want to do, then that's what your platform needs to be about. If you are a reader and you're doing book reviews, then that's what your platform needs to be about. For me, the Melanin Library, I literally advertise that I only read and review books by Black authors. That is it. And a lot of them are indie authors, traditional, whatever. As long as they're Black, they can go on the platform. So if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't go along with it, then no. So pick a lane, stay in it. That's what people are coming to your content for. So when people come to my page, they're coming to my page for books by Black authors. They're not coming there for the latest Asian American author who just released a book. That's not on my page. Don't look for it there, you know? So understand who you're marketing to so that people can find you and follow you and know what kind of content you're going to produce and what to expect from you. So, and the last thing is, don't overwhelm yourself. As I've said, and will continue to say, I don't like Instagram. It does not bring me joy. I understand the necessity of it, and I have built a platform there, and the only reason I continue is because I know there are people there who want the content that I put out, so I continue to do it. But I do not post regularly or consistently, and I only post when it's convenient for me. That is just who I am at this point. So my recommendation is, don't overwhelm yourself. If it's not something that you don't want to do, then don't do it. But yeah, that's pretty much my tips for not getting overwhelmed with social media and what I know about Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. If you have anything specific that you want to know, feel free to reach out to me via any of these platforms and I will share what I know. But yeah, on to the Chelsea's Corner update after this quick ad break. All right, you guys, we're going to take a quick break so I can tell you about the Melanin Library. It's an online database of books written by Black authors. It's a free resource that was created to make finding books by Black authors a simpler experience. And I want to take a moment to share one of those books with you right now. We Are the Origin by C.M. Lockhart is a new adult fantasy that will be available on June 21st, 2022. And the summary reads, she was a shadow. Forced into a life of serving the queendom before she was old enough to deny them, Brandy was a cultivator of death and the queen's own blade, reserved only for the disloyal and the blasphemous. Crafted by the queendom and forged in blood, she was nothing more than a tool. She was never meant to have an opinion on whose blood she shed, never meant to question whose back she was pressed into or whose throat she was slipped across. She was destruction. But when Freya, the goddess of life and judger of souls, demands that she protect rather than destroy, Brandy has no choice but to obey her new orders. And while abandoning the queendom comes with its own set of problems, being hunted by the people she once called family is the least of her worries when the gods reveal to her an enemy who exists beyond the reach of their power. So, with the helpless princess in tow, she begins her search for a way to fight this impossible enemy and save the realm from destruction, because she is the wrath of the gods, and it was foolish for anyone to forget that. If you'd like to purchase this book, there's a link for it in the description box below, and if you want to see your book advertised here, then head over to the Melanin Library website to request a promotion. Spots are limited each month, so don't wait to sign up. Now, let's get back to the content you came here for. All right, time for me to talk about myself and what's been going on in my world. So the first thing that I want to tell you guys is that I have officially unlaunched my personal Patreon. So if you listen to the previous episodes of the podcast, I was telling you to go to patreon.com/CM Lockhart. And I've unlaunched that, multiple reasons. And the first one is it's a lot of work. The second one is I decided that it was more important to not split my audience because, as I mentioned before in a previous podcast, I had 2 Patreons. And the reality of it was that more people were supporting the Melanin Library one, and I didn't want to ask them to also support my personal one when they were already supporting me and they wanted the same content. So basically what was happening is I was putting the same content on both Patreons, but it wasn't the same, and I was just creating extra work for myself for no reason. So that being said, I've unlaunched my personal one, and I'm just going to go with the one. I am working on a new project that I'm really excited about that I'll probably announce to you guys later that will involve the Patreon, but that will be for a later podcast. So just keep an eye out for that. On another note, you guys know that I've been promoting my book, We Are the Origin, because that's the one that I just finished and the one that I'm arguably most excited about because I have realized that I am a fantasy author, but my first book is a romance. And a bookstore in Ohio actually bought 2 copies of my book, Keeping Promises, which is pretty cool. I didn't market it. I don't know anyone in Ohio, and a library out there bought 2 copies of my book to add to their collection. So that was really cool to just kind of know. Like, there are people out there still reading my first book. I'm proud of that book. It's just not the one that I'm pushing now. So it was just like, oh, okay, look at you out here doing a little thing. Okay, keep doing it. So yeah. But speaking of other stories other than We Are the Origin, I have actually been rethinking one of my older stories, and I think I'm going to work on it between projects, releasing it as episodes of some sort, maybe like a serial or something. I just think that would be really fun. I'm not sure if anybody would be into it, but I think her story would be better told in like short chunks of her adventure rather than like one long novel, just because that's how like I see it in my head. It's about a 32-year-old widow who takes over her late husband's crime syndicate. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, for sure let me know, because I'm looking forward to writing it. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Also on the topic of We Are the Origin, I guess, and working on projects in between, I am getting more feedback from my betas, and while I do have some minor tweaks that I am going to have to make, which is the purpose of having betas, so that I can make tweaks, I'm not getting anything too major, and I know I keep saying that, but I just like keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, so I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be putting it on my to-do list for sometime next week or maybe the week after. I'm going to sit down and actually start making some of the tweaks that are being suggested, and I'm looking forward to that, honestly, of like getting back into it and getting a final draft so that I can start looking at getting a final version so that I can put it up for, you know, my files and stuff, and be like really like truly ready to send it out to the world, and I could start getting advanced review copies together to send out to book reviewers and such. So wish me luck with all of that. I've also decided on how I'm going to tell the story of book 2, so I'm hoping that I can A, pull it off, and B, that it'll be well received once I'm done. I'm really excited about it. I know I keep saying I'm excited about things, but I really am. I'm enjoying this journey of like being an author and working on my book and sending it out to people and getting feedback and it being positive, and just the general energy surrounding this copy of the book, because when I did Keeping Promises, it wasn't this, because I didn't do what I needed to do the first time. So I'm just really enjoying this moment, and it's nice to be content, you know? So yeah, I'm just looking forward to kind of expanding myself creatively as I write the next book and I start on this next story. If you guys are interested in the Crime Syndicate book, for sure let me know, because if no one's interested, that may discourage me a little bit. I'm probably still going to do it because that's just who I am. But yeah, that's just kind of where my mind's at. I just want to know if anybody's interested. So, and oh, of course, everybody's going to be black in the book because that's just who I am, right? So, yeah. But that is it for this episode of the Written in Melanin podcast, you guys. If you'd like to support me, CM Lockhart, my books, and the Melanin Library, then consider joining my Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you'll get exclusive updates and early release chapters of my books. Simply head over to patreon.com/writteninmelanin to sign up. In fact, you can read the prologue of my upcoming book, We Are the Origin, for absolutely free on both my Patreon and my website right now. So check it out. And if you would be so kind, please rate this podcast wherever you're listening to this at, or say something positive about it on the Written in Melanin website. There's a link in the description box that'll take you straight there. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, you guys, I hope all your books are full of melanin.